This is another example on how to place dimensions. This one doesn't have any dimensions, so if we have to interpret which dimensions we're going to apply, we want to think about how we can place the dimensions with the fewest amount of dimensions as possible and the clearest indication of all of the parts and the sizes. So I'm going to start off with these two holes here. Now they're the same size. So to place the dimension for those, I'm going to type in DDI, click on one of the holes, and edit that dimension and add 2x, capital X, space to indicate that we have two places in this drawing where we have a diameter of 18. Okay, so that takes care of those. Now we have a radius, this radius, and this radius are actually all the same radius. So I'm going to use dim radius, selecting this radius dimension, and type in front of that 3x space R30. So that takes care of all three of the radii. This circle has a different diameter, so I have to indicate that. And I wouldn't edit that at all because there's no other location where that we have a diameter of 22. Now the only thing that we have missing really at this point is we don't know the length of the part, but in this scenario the length of the part shouldn't be provided from quadrant to quadrant because we're already providing a radius of 30. So what we really want to do is show the distance between these two holes. So I'm going to add a linear dimension from here to here, and I want to track out a distance of at least 10 millimeters. So that shows me that those holes should be spaced 80 millimeters apart. And I also don't exactly know where to place the center of this circle because we haven't necessarily indicated that this arc and this circle are concentric. So it would make sense for us to place a dimension here to show that the distance from the bottom to the center of the circle is a distance of 30 millimeters. That takes care of the hole locations and their sizes. Now what's left is, do we know the thickness of this? And we don't. So this is one of those situations where I actually want that dimension here in this view, and I want it in front of this one. So I'm going to erase this dimension. Using dim linear, I'm going to place the dimension here first and track off of the edge 10 millimeters because that should be my first dimension. And then I'm going to use dim baseline to place my second dimension so that I have those stacked. I also don't know this dimension here, and I have to locate the edge of it. I also have to locate the size of it. So I also want to place this before the 80. So I'm going to delete the 80, type in dim linear, and I'm still going to reference the locations of this from the same centers of the circles. I don't want to go from the quadrant, in other words. So I'm going to go from the center of the circle to the edge and then track off of this down 10 millimeters and then use dim continue to place the second dimension. Now I'm going to use dim baseline, but I don't want to track off of this extension line, so I'm going to hit enter and pick the first extension line I started with. And try that again. Sometimes you have to go a little bit further up the line to get it to recognize that first extension line. So you see I had to do that twice to get it to recognize it, and then put the 80 in there. And I think at this point the pillow block is fully dimensioned. And what you want to do is just run through the parts. So do I know the size of all of these arcs? Yes. Do I know the size of these two circles? Yes. Do I know where they're located? Yes. Do I know the thickness of this 14? I know the placement of these holes. I know the placement of these holes through the 80 and the location of these parts. The only other dimension that we might want to add to indicate that these are all centered on the pillow block is to add a dimension to the center of the hole from the outside edge. And I would add that dimension here. But if we have this dimension here, do you see that we're also providing a radius? So if we're providing a radius on this side, then we probably would want to indicate that the radius is the same. It isn't this. We wouldn't want to repeat the radius again, so we'd want to get rid of this dimension and change it to 2x r30. Or it could be that we don't necessarily need that, because if we don't provide a dimension, then it's clear that this is centered on the part. Another way that we could handle this is to add symmetry lines. And once we add symmetry lines, then obviously this has to be centered on the part for that to work. So because of the symmetry lines, we also may not need to show the 2x diameter 18. I'm sorry, take that back. We'd have to have a symmetry line this way in order for us to remove that 2x diameter 18. So this takes care of the whole symmetry of this by putting in the symmetry line.